The year was 1962, and this was the future. A brand new straddle-beam monorail running between downtown Seattle and the city's Century 21 Expo promised a tomorrow where electric rapid transit could whisk passengers over the Pacific Northwest's largest city in style. But that tomorrow would take until the actual 21st century to become reality, and the long-awaited transit it brought had not one rail, but an ordinary two. This transit ran over city streets, but also under them, and in them. And instead of rail vehicles from the future, riders boarded trams. Still, Seattle's Link Light Rail now carries the most riders per mile of any American light rail system, features some of the most innovative transit construction in the country, and is still rapidly expanding. So after decades of anticipation, does Link deliver on its potential? The only way to find out is to go for a ride. There are technically 3 light rail lines operated by Sound Transit in the greater Seattle area, and as of right now, none of them connect. The T line is a streetcar in Tacoma. The 2 line runs east of Lake Washington, and nobody saw my video about that, and the 1 line runs 33 miles between Angle Lake and Lynnwood via downtown Seattle. That's what we're riding today. Stepping off the Seattle monorail at Westlake Center, we head underground to catch the 1 line. As we descend, you'll notice that some signage for the light rail says Transit Tunnel or Metro Tunnel, and that's because this section of the tunnel predates the light rail by almost 20 years. In 1990, Seattle opened the Downtown Seattle Transit Tunnel, which served 5 stations with a dedicated underground busway. While initial tunnel services were operated by trolley buses, planners had the foresight to put rails in the tunnel just in case light rail became reality. But not enough foresight to insulate them properly, meaning they had to be completely replaced before Link trains could run. The tunnel was shared by light rail and buses from the former's opening in 2009 until the latter's end in 2019. And even today, the light rail tracks in Westlake Station run in an underground roadway. A train of 4 Siemens S700 cars heads southbound on the opposite track. These cars began service in 2021, and variants of them have been used all over the United States, including in Sacramento, which will be a future video. But Seattle is the only city to run them in a massive downtown subway like this. Soon enough, our northbound train arrives, and we step on board, heading north until we reach Capitol Hill. We've traveled a full mile with no stops, which feels a little odd in a dense city. Indeed, the line was supposed to stop in the First Hill neighborhood, but the soil there was so weak that a tunnel wouldn't have made sense. So as a compromise, the First Hill streetcar was built, running from Capitol Hill Station to International District Chinatown. More about this in a previous video. An even longer tunnel takes us under the Montlake Cut, before we stop at the University of Washington and U District, whose public art includes windows with built-in screens, drawing inspiration from local buildings and Brooklyn in New York City. Roosevelt is our last underground stop, before the line pops above ground and reaches Northgate. From here to Lynnwood, we run elevated, paralleling Interstate 5. Pinehurst Station is under construction, and the shuttered platform displays temporary public art for passing trains. This station was part of the 3rd major ballot measure to fund Link's expansion, while the rest of the extension to Lynnwood was part of the 2nd. The first ballot measure, called Sound Move, passed in 1996 after decades of speculation surrounding rail transit in Seattle. This funded light rail between downtown and the city airport. Measures Sound Transit 2 and Sound Transit 3 passed in 2008 and 2016 respectively to expand the system. And boy is it expanding. Maps inside the trains have several different spots for lines and stations that are coming soon, and they don't even show the planned future link between the 1 and 2 lines. I still wish they had pictograms like they used to, but at least they have a unique station numbering system to help with wayfinding. Trains on Link have a unique way of saying which side the platform will be on.
Doors to my left.
Very personal. This is my first time on the Lynnwood extension, and I've got to say, it feels less like a light rail and more like the Silver Line on the Washington Metro, and how it runs along a highway. Side note, if you like DC Transit, you're gonna love what's at the end of this video. We're even keeping pace with the cars on I-5, then easing past them.
This is the 1 to Lynnwood City Center.
Okay, I might be overthinking this, but this announcement sounds wrong. It sounds like she's saying this is the 1 line to Lynnwood City Center. There are no other lines, even though soon the 2 line will run there as well. Or it sounds like she's saying this is the 1 line to Lynnwood, as if she's about to say this is the other line to Lynnwood, which maybe they'll say on the 2 line. Any case, we blitz past a traffic jam and pull into our final stop in Lynnwood, where we descend to the bus terminal and watch our train pull into the inbound platform. Only here can we properly realize how majestic this part of the line is, with the long trains soaring above traffic. Really makes you wonder why they didn't just build it as a heavy metro system. And you know what? They almost did. You see, less than a decade after the World's Fair and its shiny monorail, Seattle was presented with a 1968 Forward Thrust ballot initiative, which proposed a comprehensive rail transit system, stretching to the north, south, and east of downtown. Remember, this was around when America was building BART and the Washington Metro, which features in an announcement at the end of this video. In the end, rapid rail transit failed to achieve the needed 60% majority vote. 2 years later, voters were again asked if they wanted rail, and they turned it down by an even greater margin. Federal funding that would have gone to this system instead went to Atlanta's MARTA. What's funny to me is that when you look at proposed transit maps from Forward Thrust, you see a system much like today's light rail, with a similar route downtown and out to the east of Lake Washington. Although for some reason, maps I've seen from the time skip SeaTac entirely. If anything, Link is better planned than the old system. Other than modal choice, that is. After a visit, we're back at the light rail, boarding at Shoreline South. Zooming in down the viaduct, we can see a northbound train approaching us on the dip from the next station. Now, where have I seen this before? And honestly, what's better than a crouching shot at golden hour?
Hi.
That's better. The northbound train departs and...
I want Classville community to know that about the time in these videos I'm told to get away from the camera, so don't believe what you see online, okay?
Anyway, the northbound train departs and ours arrives to take us to the airport, taking us past the Jackson Park Golf Course. From this side of the train, we can enjoy more of the art at Pinehurst, the sound barrier walls between us and the neighbors, the transit-oriented development near Northgate, and this perfect reflection shot. Then it's back underground to the old bus tunnel. Heading south from Westlake, we passed the somewhat brutalist Symphony, as well as Pioneer Square, which would totally look at home on the Washington Metro, which you really want to stay tuned to hear more about. International District Chinatown takes us out of the tunnel, and we can see the city's sports stadiums and the flyover the 2-line will use to one day connect to Bellevue and Redmond. Warehouses and murals line the track as we sprint south before making a 90-degree turn and climbing towards Beacon Hill, with lovely sunset views of the city. A tunnel through the hill, which features an interesting art installation, takes us to Beacon Hill Station, the last underground stop on the system. On the other side of the hill, we turn south again and reach the only part of the Seattle Light Rail that actually feels like light rail. From just after Mount Baker Station, we join Martin Luther King Jr. Way and run in the streets medium through the Rainier Valley. This is quite possibly the most controversial piece of Seattle transit. When the light rail was first conceived, planners decided to put this segment at grade to stay on budget, rather than making it elevated or underground. They may be regretting this decision now. A 2019 report from The Urbanist concluded that a collision between a train and a vehicle happens here about every 40 days, and Sound Transit has been working hard to improve safety in the last decade, including more signage, crossing gates, and the use of ditch lights on trains. So I realize I haven't actually talked to the camera yet this video because this is fundamentally a family trip. We're running from and to the airport. Just happened to be getting some footage along the way. I was going to stop and get out and investigate the street running section, but my traveling companion is fast asleep. Stops here are fairly spaced out, with only 3 stations along a 4.5-mile stretch of track, quite a bit less than other median light rail systems, such as Valley Metro in Phoenix. At least, transit-oriented development here is taking off after a slow initial start. And unfortunately, things like the Rainier Valley segment mean that Link will never be a true metro. It's a pretty cold take to say that Seattle would have been better off with a Great Society Metro than a light rail, and you can tell that planners initially wanted a Great Society Metro, just in how the system is designed and used. If the Hudson-Bergen light rail we visited a couple weeks ago is the perfect use of light rail as a medium-distance transit, Link is light rail pushed to the absolute limits of grade separation, barring Rainier Valley, capacity, and distance. But Link is doing a job that was originally meant for a bigger system, in a way that benefits the Seattle of today tremendously, and limits what the city's transit future can be. Stations can't handle more than 4-car trains, after all. In 1962, riders on the Seattle Monorail, including Elvis and John Glenn, were shown transit full of optimism. Today, riders on Sound Transit must instead face realism. On the one hand, it's crazy cool that Sound Transit built one of the best light rail systems in the country. Again, it has America's highest ridership per mile. But on the other hand, sometimes hard decisions have to be made when you're building transit, and sometimes those decisions have consequences. Time will tell what those will be. Hello everyone! Are you a fan of Washington Transit that looks less like this and more like this? If so, you're in luck. Classy Whale is partnering with Trains Are Awesome and the National Capital Trolley Museum to announce a DC Transit video contest. Our favorite videos will be featured in a museum exhibit, so check out the link below for a full description of the contest. Take care.
Yo sigo